This is Chapter 9, Constructing Gender and Sexuality. We'll start with some review questions. Sociologists consider to be biological, whereas to be cultural and social. The answer: gender and sex, sexuality, intersexuality, or sex and gender. The answer is C, sex and gender. While the words sex and gender are often used interchangeably in everyday conversations, sociologists explore them and consider them very differently. Here we look at how the different perspectives view gender. So the question would be whether it's essentialist, constructionist, conflict theorists, or feminists that believe that gender roles have a genetic origin and therefore cannot be changed. That would be essentialist. Sociologists look at gender from different perspectives depending upon their field of study. Constructionist and essentialist are two such perspectives. So, society recognizes several sexual identities or orientations. These identities are based on a two-category gender system. Is this true or false? And the answer is true. Sex and gender. The terms sex and gender are often used interchangeably, but sociologists differentiate between the two. Sex refers to an individual's membership in one of the two biologically distinct categories, male or female. Sometimes in our society, we see these terms used interchangeably. For instance, on a job application, you might see a checkbox that says, select your gender, male or female. This is an inappropriate use of the term gender. The application is actually referring to the term sex. Why do you think that someone might use the term gender rather than sex? And generally this is out of a desire to be politically correct. And also sometimes the connotation with the term sex. Understanding the differences between these two terms is essential for understanding the concepts throughout the section. So we will spend the next few minutes making sure we're clear about all of the differences. Sex. About 1 in 1,000 babies is born intersex or hermaphroditic, which means having an abnormal chromosomal makeup and mixed indeterminate or male and female sex characteristics. This is a function of biological sex. Gender is different because it relates to the way that a person behaves based on his or her biological sex. In other words, we learn to act manly or womanly based on the sex that we're born. Gender refers to the physical, behavioral, and personality traits that a group considers normal for its male and female members. Gender identity refers to an individual's self-definition or sense of gender, while gender expression refers to an individual's behavioral manifestations of gender. Gender is a term that describes our behaviors as feminine or masculine. In our society, it is often expected that women will behave in feminine ways and men will behave in masculine ways. Of course, we all know individuals who don't fit this description or who behave with varying degrees of femininity or masculinity. But these individuals sometimes face sanctions or negative stereotypes because their behavior contradicts the expectations of society. Gender is thus better understood as a continuum rather than a dichotomy. The term gender identity refers to an individual's self-definition or sense of gender, while gender expression refers to an individual's behavioral manifestations of gender. We'll now consider the essentialist and constructionist approaches when it comes to gender. Essentialists see gender as biological or genetic and believe that gender is a simple two-category binary system determined by your chromosomes, hormones, and genitalia, and that is permanent and unchanging. Essentialists generally are not sociologists. They are often found in fields such as medicine, theology, and biology, although sometimes sociologists in certain subfields like social biology will also adhere to this principle. Most sociologists use a constructionist approach and see sex, gender, and sexuality as social constructs. For instance, queer theorists emphasize the importance of difference and reject ideas of innate identities or restrictive categories of gender and sexual identity. Constructionists believe that gender is constructed or created through our interactions with other members of society. In the United States, we tend to classify people as being male or female, but other societies have different classification systems, some of which are mentioned in your textbook, and people are treated differently based on the norms associated with that other system. So, how many biological sexes are there? Hermaphrodites are born with one testes and one ovary and a mixture of male and female genitalia. Male pseudohermaphrodites have two testes and a mixture of male and female genitalia, but no ovaries. Female pseudohermaphrodites are born with two ovaries and a mixture of male and female genitalia, but no testes. Females are born with two ovaries and female genitalia. Males are born with two testes and male genitalia. So, from this perspective, there are 5 biological sexes. Sexuality and sexual orientation. Sexual orientation is the inclination to be heterosexual, that's attracted to the opposite sex, homosexual, that's attracted to the same sex, or bisexual, that's attracted to either sex. And then there are those who are asexual, and that's that they may simply reject any sexual identity at all. Sexual orientation is not based on gender, or in other words, a masculine woman is not always attracted to other women, etc. This slide shows sex, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation all on the continuum, sexual continuum, as proposed by Kinsey. It argued that people are not exclusively heterosexual or homosexual, but rather that they fall along a wide spectrum between the two extremes. Homosexuality is sexual attraction to members of the same sex. Bisexuals are sexually attracted to both men and women. Transsexuals identify with the opposite sex, but they may be attracted to men, women, or both sexes. Asexuals have no interest in or desire for sex. Now, gender equality and the sociological theories of gender inequality. Functionalists believe that there are social roles better suited to one gender than the other, and that societies are more stable when certain tasks are done by the appropriate sex. Functionalists tend to believe that society functions the way it does as a result of men and women having different roles and tasks. Functionalists would likely agree that sometimes these differences result in inequalities, but there is a purpose for this in the society. According to Talcott Parsons, men are more suited for an instrumental role, the person who provides the family's material support and is often an authority figure, while women are more suited for an expressive role, and that's the person who provides the family's emotional support and nurturing. Talcott Parsons was a functionalist. While it may be true that men and women have traditionally filled these gender-specific roles, many contemporary theories argue that this is a result of our socialization or the way that we've been taught to behave. We'll talk more about that in some upcoming slides. Have you ever been told a particular behavior wasn't appropriate because you were a boy or a girl? Or have you received a harsher or more lenient punishment because you were a boy or girl? Can you identify some specific examples of gender role socialization in your life? Perhaps you were given certain toys to play with or had certain toys taken away from you. Or perhaps there were certain things that you like to do or certain clothes you like to wear, and you were told that those were not the clothes for a boy to wear or the toys for a girl to play with, and all of those things. Those are examples of how we have been socialized for particular gender roles in our lives. Gender role socialization is the lifelong process of learning to be masculine or feminine, primarily through the four main agents of socialization: families, schools, peers, and the media. This concludes our discussion on sex and gender.